Um, we're about to meet somebody who I encountered recently, and we began to talk about sugar cravings. And in just a few moments, our guest, Eve Colantoni, began to talk about sugar cravings in a way that I had never heard of. Now, if you read my email, you know that I am on a first name basis with both Ben and Jerry. Um, Also, that Haagen Dazs, okay, usually they keep a personal aisle and stash in the supermarket for um, um, for when I show up. So you know, Eve was like the enemy, right? She was going to take away my sugar cravings. But as I listened, and I know how destructive sugar can be, I realized that this is something that I wanted to share. And we started this really for something that were for people who were members of the Just 4 Minutes program. And then we opened it up to everybody. And by virtue of the fact of just hundreds and hundreds of people who signed up for this call, we know that it is something important. So here's what I want you to do. Number one is you are going, this is a no pitch call. Okay. You're not going to be sold anything in the call. So don't worry. Put away your credit cards. And just instead of your credit card, I'm going to suggest that you make sure that you have a notebook to write down what you're going to learn, because this is going to be real actionable stuff. Second, um, be prepared to learn things that you had not known before about yourself, your body, um, nutrition wise, cravings wise, because what you're going to about to discover it could very well change your life. So with that, I'm very happy and proud to introduce Eve. Thanks, Eve, for being with
Oh,
us.
absolutely, absolutely. And Harlan, thank you so much for such a warm welcome. I really appreciate it. And
And
as you know,
everybody here, how about type in and say hi, Eve, and
yeah,
everybody,
I'd love
and
to hear where you're
everybody,
from.
everybody type in hi, Eve. Let her know where you're from, and she's new to us, so be on your best behavior, okay?
Oh,
Hi, Eve
I'm
from Boston, Dallas, Sandy, Utah, San
fabulous.
Francisco. Hey, Miss San Francisco, I'm going to be there in a couple of weeks. Let's meet. North Carolina, Virginia, UK, Nashville from my former home state. Um,
Nice. Very nice. Well, cool. Well, thank you everyone so much. I
Notre Dame.
absolutely,
Whoa.
very
The
cool.
fighting Irish are on the call. Okay.
Well, thank you so much again. And again, Harlan, thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. As you know, this is absolutely one of my most favorite topics to talk about. This was something that actually had affected my life seriously for many, many years. I don't think I quite realized, how much it was actually not only affecting my body, but, it's one of those things where it starts to spill over into so many other areas of your life. So again, it just really is such a pleasure for me to be able to, share what I went through so that I can, hopefully help other people who are struggling in this same way. So that said, I want to thank you so much again for being in class today, and I want to let you know that I really do value your time. I understand that with all the other things we have going on in life these days, there's other things that you could be tending to at this point. So the fact that you've decided to be here today, I just really want to let you know that I will make it worth your while. Um, that said, I'd really like to invite you to just tune in today. If you've got your browser open and you're on Facebook and you're, twittering or, texting, just how much will you really be able to, benefit from today's class. So I just want to invite you again to remove any type of distractions that you have so that you really can focus in on what we'll be discussing today. So once again, my name is Eve Colantoni, and I am actually the founder and director of the Weight Loss for Tired People program. But additionally, I also direct the nutrition team for National Integrated Health Associates, which is Washington, D.C.'s premier integrated medical and biological dentistry center. We're actually one of the largest integrative medical centers on the East Coast. So again, I'm just really, really proud to be associated with such an amazing group of people who are doing such incredible, incredible work in the health field. So that said, I know a lot of people oftentimes they'll hear me speak or they'll see me, lecturing, and they'll come up to me and they'll say, this is probably a really, really easy thing for you. You look so healthy, it's probably not a big deal for you to turn away from sugar. And, in the meantime, I'm over here just like barely able to like control myself around sugar at all. And, to that, I'll say, the reason why I got involved with this to begin with is because, for much of my life, not only was I, controlled by sugar cravings, but my sugar cravings had actually morphed so much so that I really had a full-on addiction. Now, again, we'll talk more about the difference between just having sugar cravings and what theoretically can happen when you move into a full-on addiction later. But just, by all means, really just know that I was really in the trenches with this for, again, most of my life. Now, that said, I know a lot of people, too, will kind of scratch their head and say, addiction to sugar? Like, really? I mean, come on, is it that big of a deal? I mean, come on, we've all like grown up with sugar and we eat it all the time. I mean, come on, is it that big of a deal? So to that I'd say, interestingly enough, sugar nowadays is absolutely everywhere. It's everywhere. If you've ever tried to take sugar completely out of your diet and you've gone into the grocery store, when you start to look at your food labels, you'll really recognize what I mean when I say it is everywhere. It's basically in everything that we're eating. So, because we see it so much so, we've just become, kind of desensitized. We think it's, very normal. If you see everything all around you, you just, don't think that there's necessarily much of a problem with it. Additionally, the way that most of us have grown up, it's like we're subject to it all throughout the year. Valentine's Day is coming up. What do? We give our sweetie a box of chocolates. If you celebrate Easter, you've got the chocolate bunnies and the little candy eggs, and Halloween, of course, rolls around, and that's just a sugar bonanza, not to mention all the sweets that we have at Thanksgiving and Christmas. And of course, growing up too, it's like, think about it, as childhood treats, we give kids lollipops, and not to mention all the sugary birthday parties. And of course, you walk into a restaurant and you'll be really, really hard pressed to find a single restaurant in town that doesn't have a dessert menu. So again, because it's everywhere, we just think that it's very, very normal. Now, another thing that I think a lot of people will come up against too is they'll say, this really is not that big of a deal at all. Let me give you a little bit of advice. It's just called willpower. We're all adults here and we just need to, practice a little self-restraint. But I'll tell you, when it comes to sugar cravings, and if you're simply using willpower alone to try and make the grade here and conquer this part of your life, you're really barking up the wrong tree. It's like you can fight with this all day long thinking that it's just a matter of willpower. And I'll tell you, when it comes to overcoming sugar cravings, it really has nothing to do with willpower whatsoever. So, if you've been beating yourself up that way, thinking that you just need to have more self-restraint, really give yourself a break, because as we talk today, you'll come to recognize that, sugar, because we just see it so commonly around, we don't really recognize how incredibly addictive it is and how destructive it is to our system. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that sugar is actually one of the most addictive substances on the planet, right up there with cocaine and heroin and methamphetamine. It really can take a serious, serious hold on us. And additionally, because, again, it's just so commonly used. We've reached these toxic levels. So basically, it's like we're slowly poisoning ourselves. And for some of us, that really can morph into an addiction. Now,
Let
I
me
know a lot
ask.
of people.
Hold
Mhm,
on. Let me ask.
yeah.
Get a little feedback from our folks out there. How many people here have or believe that they have a problem with sugar? If you do, type it in and tell me the nature of the problem, and tell me your the single thing that does you in. Let's see. What is it?
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll read them off to you.
Sure. I know everybody's got their favorite sweet.
Chocolate, ice cream,
Chocolate.
ice cream,
Mm-hmm.
almost any sweets, chocolate, late night cravings. If I eat a little
Mm-hmm.
processed sugar, I start going for anything. Sweets,
Yep.
Rice Krispie treats with marshmallows. Oh, I like you. Coca-Cola, candy bar, yeah. Big time problem. Anything sweet. Breads. Okay, well, breads can have sugar in them.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
King
yes.
cake, Mardi Gras time. Well, that's coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything else out there that you guys have a thing? Or any of you guys, do you personally know my friends Ben and Jerry as well? Pecan pie, ice cream, sweets in the summer, chocolate cake, key lime pie, tiramisu. Oh, you guys are making me hungry. Ice cream, cookies, and Three Musketeers. Did you know that I was the fourth Musketeer? I was supposed to be on the package. Okay, that's how good my relation. Okay, so we've just confirmed that you guys are on. You are very acquainted with my buddies in the ice cream world. Okay, so
Yes.
Ben and Jerry. Okay, so I love ice cream and sprinkles, shortbread cookies, and they're fatty too. All right, so I just wanted to confirm that you guys were on the right call. Okay, so we're all on the same page here, and let's go back to Eve.
Great, great. Now, look, I want to tell you this too, because I know a lot of times this can start to seem like, well, especially like I said, if you've really been struggling with this for a while and you've tried to give it up, but like someone said on there, the second I have a little bit of processed sugar, that's it. It's like no holds barred. Everything starts to let loose again. And I know some people will just kind of throw in the cards and give up and say, well, you know what? If we've all got to die of something, and I might as well have some fun in the meantime. But to that, I would say, how much fun is it to feel like you're out of control around food? And, how much fun is it to feel like you're in a battle with food every day? And I know this was for me for a long time. You walk into the break room and that box of donuts, and every day I'd say, okay, I'm not going to have a donut. And then sure enough, work would get stressful, and there they were. So it was just like this constant internal struggle of saying, oh my God, I told myself I wouldn't do this again, and yet here I am. And, that said too, how much fun is it when we've eaten so much sugar that we start to have weight issues and we can't get into our clothes anymore? And, how much fun is it once we have started to put on weight when we feel like, our friends are kind of whispering behind our back, oh my God, have you seen how much weight she's put on? And, that none of this is fun. But more so, when you show up in life and you're now living in a body that's overweight that doesn't feel like you. It's like you don't feel like you're showing up in the world the way that you really want to. How much fun is that? And then sadly, how much fun is it to worry that we could be setting ourselves up for bigger health conditions? Now, look, I want to tell you something. I remember when I was in the seventh grade, like they wanted to convince us to like not start smoking. So like the science teacher brought in like this like black lung or something, and I guess the idea was to like try and scare us so that we wouldn't like start smoking. And it was a really nice idea, but we've like proven time and time again that like to get people to take positive change in your life, it's not about introducing scare tactics. So honestly, I'm not going to be doing that for you guys today. I will be giving you some facts so that you really can make some educated decisions in your life here. But I also want you to know this too. I'm not the food police. In fact, Harlan will tell you, we recently were on a cruise together, and I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise, but basically they serve all this like really decadent food. And pretty much every night I ordered a dessert, and I had the Grand Marnier souffle, and I had the chocolate molten cake, and Harlan was laughing, saying, "Wait, you're the sugar girl. You're having dessert here." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, because here's the beauty of it. When you really get your body back into balance, you don't have to worry about having a little sugar here and there. It no longer has control over me. Whereas at some point I would have like a single cookie and that was it. I'd be eating the whole bag. Um, and it really is just absolutely amazing when you get your body back into balance because, again, you can live from this new place where you're not controlled by the food. You're not constantly, thinking about it or battling with yourself about, oh, I should be good, but I really want to eat this, and more so, when you do get your body back into balance, you start to be able to like live from a completely different place. So this is what I want to show you today. I really want to show you that there is a different way to live. And it's amazing because when you bring your body back into balance, it not only affects, again, your sugar cravings and your dietary habits, but it starts to spill over into every other area of your life. Your body starts to feel really, really good again. Your energy levels will increase. All of a sudden, you'll be able to like do more than you've been doing in the past. Sugar, of course, is directly related to our moods. So, with 40 million Americans on antidepressants these days, we've got to start asking like bigger questions about what's, causing some of these things. So again, when you can get this area of your life under control, like I said, it spills over where you start to feel more energized and just, like I said, your moods will definitely take off. And, let's face it too. Come on, we all want to feel really, really good in our own skin. And obviously, you don't need a crystal ball to see what's going to happen if you're consuming too much sugar. Down the line, that certainly can add up to extra weight. So, like I said, who here is ready to look like this? I guess the bigger question is, do I have your attention now? Like, have I piqued your interest? And if you're really ready to get this part of your life handled, I'd love to just hear from you now. Who's in? Who wants to get this part of their life handled? Harlan, will you let me know who's tuning
Oh,
in?
me, absolutely. Bring it. Okay, let's do it. Yes.
Fabulous. Okay, cool. So that said, I know I
Oh,
asked you
yes. Oh, yes.
earlier. Sweet.
I'm a
So like I
guy. I
said,
don't want to look like her, but maybe date her.
there you go. Like I said, this spills over into every area of your life as you'll start to learn on today's class. So that said, I know I invited you a little earlier to turn off all your distractions, but I just really, really want to, again, invite you to reprioritize what you're doing right now so that you can really fully tune in here. I want to ask you to be here with me 100% today. I want you to focus in on this information like your life depends on it, because it really, truly does. As I mentioned before, when you understand how food affects your body, and in particular sugar, your whole life can turn out absolutely differently. So just imagine with me for a moment, what would your life be like if you absolutely were just filled with abundant energy? Like when you come home from work, instead of having to like flop down on the sofa, you've got that much more time to like really be out there enjoying your life. And that said, when your mood shifts, like what would life be like if you were really living from this place of like joy? Who would you be attracting into your life because, they just felt your energy and felt your spirit and just, loved that energy that they were feeling. And, when you move into a place of really, truly being healthy, it's like, what possibilities does life hold for you? Because I've been through this myself already, I can tell you, like, my whole life is so completely different than when I was, addicted to sugar and just sick and tired and overweight and not happy with my life. So now, today, I want you to know that this is your turn. So, that said, let's begin. So in today's class, we're going to be talking about the critical role that sugar plays in determining either how well you're going to be or how sick you can become. How much energy you have or how exhausted you'll be feeling. I'll let you know how sugar plays a direct correlation, of course, with how slim and trim we are, or how overweight and bloated and not feeling well ultimately we can become. Additionally, I want to share with you a major mindset shift that allows you to completely eliminate any stress you've been feeling around your sugar cravings so that you can more gracefully move into a place of balance. This is really, really key, actually. And then last, I'm actually going to give you my exact system that I use with my clients to uncover the cause of their cravings so that we can, establish what the solution is so that you can, again, just move forward and be free of these nagging cravings. So that said, I want to ask you right now, in your mind, like, what do you tell yourself about your sugar cravings? You know, just as an example, I mean, I've heard so many things over the years, and people will say, I just, I don't think I'm ever going to beat this. I tell myself I'm not going to eat it, and then the very next day I'm right there back, dipping into the cookies again. I just don't think I have any control over this, and I don't think I'll ever be able to get over it. Or, of course, they just like beat themselves up thinking sugar is so evil, like I have to get rid of every single bit of it for the rest of my life, like it has to be like all or nothing, cold turkey. So again, wherever you are right now, I just really like to hear like what your thoughts and what your beliefs around sugar is at this time. So Harlan, will you clue me into what everybody is typing in?
Okay, we have comfort food, especially
Mm,
under great stress. You just
yes.
described me. I can
Hmm.
skip sugar and sweets for a few days, but when I indulge, I cannot stop easily.
Yep. Yep. That makes
Anyone
perfect,
else?
perfect sense.
The reason I didn't respond right away is because Ben and Jerry are calling me from the refrigerator. They're saying,
I know.
Harlan, come on. You haven't seen us in a few days. We
There
forget
you
what you
go.
look like.
All right. So, like I said, whatever you have going on in your mind right now, I want to give you the opportunity to really shift your mindset around this and to actually embrace your sugar cravings. Now, just trust me for a minute. I'm
Oh,
not one of
we
those
got a
people.
few more. Savoring the
Uh,
sweet can be the highlight of my day. I deserve a
mm-hmm.
reward. If it's in the
Mm,
house, I can't resist it.
oh, yes.
Can't resist its call. Oh man, there it is. Yeah, I'll be stepping inside. Um,
I hear ya. I hear ya.
Me and
And
sugar,
all of
it's like a
those.
bug attracted to the light. Although I have to
Yeah.
say, for those of you who think that you aren't going to get real solutions, when you hear what Eve is going to say, you're going to like
Oh,
slap
yes.
yourself on the side of the head and go, "Oh my God, this really works." So
E-
I'm going to shut up
Oh,
and
yes.
turn it over to you.
So, that said, like I mentioned, I want to shift your mindset here. And again, like I said, if you're seeing the screen there, I want to teach you how to embrace these sugar cravings. Now, again, please, please understand, I am not one of those people that says, oh yeah, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, or like every cloud has a silver lining. Like that's not what this is about at all. In fact, what this is again, just recognizing that your sugar cravings are there as a reason and they're actually a gift. So, what do I mean by that? Well, let's think about it this way. Think about your sugar cravings as a fire alarm. Again, like most of the time when the fire alarm goes off, a lot of us will get annoyed because, like we think, oh, it's a false alarm and oh, that stupid fire alarm is blaring and it's, interrupting whatever I'm doing. But, the one time that the fire alarm is going off and it really is there to like let us know that the house is on fire, it can absolutely save our life. So instead of getting mad at the fire alarm for going off, we think, oh my God, thank God it alerted us that, again, there was something really bad happening. We all could have, like, died. So again, when we look at sugar cravings now, I want you to recognize that it's your body's way of giving you a signal to let you know that there's something else happening. And thankfully, that whatever that something else is, there are ways to actually correct this. So let's jump right in here so we can find out why this is so critical and then how we can, again, begin to move into a place where we can eliminate these cravings. Okay, so first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about what sugar is actually. What is it? Basically, sugar starts off as a real live thing. It's a plant, usually in the form of sugar cane or in the form of sugar beets. What we do is we take these plants and we send them off to a factory, and through this, really highly specialized refining process, we go through and we strip away all of the fiber that's actually present in these plants, and what we're left with is basically the white crystalline substance that we know as table sugar. Okay, so now here's the part that's interesting. When it comes to plants, we've now come to recognize that that fiber is extremely important. There's a reason why it's there. Any of you familiar with Whole Foods Market, like the big organic grocery chain? Well, it's called Whole Foods for a reason. We've come to recognize that we need to be eating our foods in a whole form, that nature has actually packaged every single food perfectly so that we get all the right things in conjunction with each other. Now, what happens with sugar is, of course, we go through and we strip all of this fiber off, and we're basically just left, like I said, with that crystalline substance. Now, if you've ever had a piece of fresh sugar cane, you'll know, and you can see right in the picture here, it's extremely fibrous. Like there's a ton of fiber in there. And again, nature is really trying to tell us something here. And to give you an example of this, let's take a look at like apples. When you look at apple seeds actually have a small amount of naturally occurring cyanide and arsenic in them. So we don't go through and extract all the apple seeds and then press them to extract all the arsenic and the cyanide and then drink a big glass of that. We don't do that because it would kill us. It's poison. But somehow, because sugar is so ridiculously tasty, again, we'll go through and strip away all this fiber, and then we're left with the substance. Sadly, we're now recognizing what a hugely detrimental effect that this has on our body. So let's take a look at other foods that have a tremendous amount of fiber in them. Whole grains, just as an example. Now, whole grains, of course, have some naturally occurring sugar in them too. But when we eat them in their whole form, what happens is the sugar is released very, very slowly into our system, and it provides a really nice source of stable, lasting energy. But with sugar, because there's no fiber in it whatsoever, what happens is when we consume this, it just immediately hits our bloodstream. There's no digestion process that needs to take place. It just jumps right into our body. And what this does is it gives us this huge, huge, huge spike of sugar to our system. It's like this crazy, crazy sugar rush. But let me ask you, what happens after that? I mean, come on, we've all experienced this before, right? Crash. We all have a crash. So we might be really buzzing off of our sugar initially, but then ultimately we crash. And trust me, dealing with these sugar crashes are not fun when we're at work and we need to be on our toes and we need to be, performing at our highest level. So that said, what happens next? We're experiencing this crash. The body's going to send out a signal too, saying, oh, hey, look, now we're in an equally bad situation here. We're crashing. We need something to bring our blood sugar levels back up. So the body's going to send out a craving for more sugar to, bring us back out of that crash place. So interestingly enough, oftentimes what's happening is we're starting off our day with a food that inadvertently puts us on this, we call it the insulin glucose roller coaster, where again, we're spiking our blood sugar levels, then having a crash, and then spiking them again, then having a crash. And literally all day long, we're inadvertently doing this without even recognizing that the foods that we started off with at the beginning of the day are responsible for, again, initiating this entire process. Now, well, why is this so important? I mean, obviously we know the crash part isn't fun, but what's really happening in the big picture here? Well, every single time we introduce a large amount of sugar to our system, our body is going to introduce a hormone called insulin. And insulin is the hormone that allows us to get the sugar out of our bloodstream and deposit it into our cells. Now, sadly, insulin is also called the fat storage hormone, Because basically, when the sugar goes into our cells, body will initially try to send it to our muscles, for example. That's why they say, eat a carbohydrate-rich snack before you work out so that you can get some good sugar to your muscles. Additionally, if our muscles, though, are satisfied, the body will then send the sugar to our brain. If our brain is satisfied and it has enough sugar to function, what do you think the body's going to do with all the excess sugar? Basically, it's going to store it in our system as fat. So this is a really, really important part here, because not only is insulin actually storing all this excess sugar as fat, but when insulin is actually present in our system, it prevents the release of two other hormones, glucagon and growth hormone. Now, glucagon is the hormone that allows us to burn fat, and growth hormone is the hormone that allows us to build muscle. So not only is insulin storing excess fat on our body, but it's also preventing us from burning fat, and it's preventing us from building muscle. We call this the insulin double whammy. Really is like, hey, totally unfair there, right? Now, additionally, we have known for, at least a decade now that inflammation is really like the secret killer. Like underlying all disease in our body is basically inflammation. And insulin, we're now realizing, basically creates inflammation in the body. So with inflammation, we know, like hands down, that it leads to all sorts of chronic health diseases like heart disease and arthritis, cancer, Alzheimer's, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes. Of course, they're now coining a new term called diobesity, which is a combination of being obese and having diabetes. Cancer, if you know anybody that has cancer, please implore them to get off the sugar. It's amazing. When you see cancer cells under a microscope and you give them sugar, it literally like energizes them. They go wild. And of course, that's not what we want cancer to be doing in our body. We want cancer to be dying and going away. So that said too, we know that sugar not only, again, contributes to this whole inflammatory process, but it absolutely will disrupt our brain chemistry as well, too. And we now know that this can lead to depression, anxiety, insomnia, irritability, ADH symptoms, PMS symptoms, fatigue. So, again, when I was saying before that sugar not only affects our diet or how we think about it every day, like, oh, I have these cravings and they're really annoying, but it really does spill over into every single other parts of our lives. Like how many times have you come home and like yelled at the kids, like snapped at your husband, and then just realized, oh God, I'm just really irritable, my blood sugar's low, I just need to get something to eat. Or how many times have you had, like, really, to the women on the call, if you had really bad PMS and you've like started a fight with somebody that you really care about. It's like all these things, again, like I said, it spills over into every other area of our life where we're not experiencing balance. So, more so, let's look at the issue of being overweight. At this point, it's like, every 2 in 3 Americans is overweight, and every 1 in 3 Americans is obese. Now, again, if being overweight was just a cosmetic issue, we wouldn't be talking about it. But again, it's not just a cosmetic issue. It really, like I said, leads to every single other area of our life where, again, we can be experiencing living from a place of, well-being and vitality and just, having the life that we really, really deserve. Now, what I want to do is, again, I don't mean to take you down this really dark path, but I think I just really want everyone to know that this is a lot more serious, and, it's not just like, oh, we're going to have little cupcakes at the party here. This really can be something that can absolutely be devastating to our lives, but there absolutely is a way out. And I feel really, really grateful for the fact that I, was able to go down the path that I did with sugar, because ultimately it really did take me back to a place of well-being. So that said, I want to just tell you briefly, how I came to learn all this. basically for most of my life, I was really like one of those like wimpy, like kind of sick kids. It was like, I had my asthma inhaler and I had all sorts of crazy allergies and I would get migraine headaches and, I had ADD and, it just seemed to me like, it was luck of the draw. Like some kids wear glasses and some kids don't and some kids need braces and some kids don't. And, for some of us, we have ADD and migraine headaches and all that. And like I said, it just seemed like, well, that's how it was. But now, of course, much later in my life, and having been through everything that I've been through, I now know that it's not just luck of the draw, that there are absolutely things that are contributing to us, not living in a state of vibrancy, and we really do have the ability to switch so much of this around. So for me, when I started having issues as, a kid, like I said, allergies and all this, I would go to the doctor and, it was sort of like, well, doctor knows best. Here's a medication for you. And every single new medication that I was getting, like, oh, here's your asthma inhaler, and here's your migraine medication, and here's your allergy medication, one after another. I was just, again, like being prescribed tons and tons of medications. And it wasn't until I was in my early 30s that I finally woke up one day. I was absolutely exhausted. I was overweight. I was depressed. I was really unhappy. And basically, I scratched my head. And for the first time in my life, I thought, wait, is it normal that I'm on 14 different medications and like I'm only 32? And it was really at this point that I decided that I just needed to really start trying to do my own research and figure out what was going on with my body. And, prior to that point, like, I didn't know that there was any other way to live. I was just kind of eating this, garbagey standard American diet. I was putting on weight like nobody's business. And again, I was just like not living a really great life. And thankfully, just in the years that I was able to go back to school and start really studying how the body works, and again, using my own body as a laboratory, that I was able to, learn what was really going on. And it was just amazing at that point, because not only did I completely get rid of my sugar cravings, but I was able to, like, just one by one throw away all my medications. I went from being a size 14 on 14 different medications to being a size 0 on 0 medications. And really, the whole process was just amazing. But like I said, all that spills over into other areas of your life. So
Hold on, wait a
ultimately,
second. Put it back.
yes.
Put it back. Okay. Anybody notice a slight difference? What do you think, guys?
You
Are
know
you
what? It doesn't help too when like you're overweight and you're really unhappy and you're like a huge dork on top of it too. So
awesome?
like,
Awesome. Wow. Very inspiring. Fantastic. Okay.
very cool.
All right. In other words, it works. And it works because the
It,
person telling you this has actually done it themselves.
yes, no doubt.
Okay,
So
I'll turn things back over to you.
thank you. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I do the work that I do today, because again, I just know what it's like when you go through this. And as I mentioned, I was so sick before. I would come home from work, I was just exhausted. I would flop down on the sofa, and I keep asking, people to tune in with this. Like, are you really living your best life ever when you feel like you're controlled by food cravings, you're exhausted, you're moody? And for me, because I was on so many different medications, I just never, ever, ever thought that I would be healthy enough, to do one of the biggest things that I had always wanted to do, which was to become a mother. And, it was just amazing, because when I got my body back into balance, and, at 35, when I got pregnant, it was just amazing, because I had the most amazing pregnancy. It was like I didn't have any morning sickness whatsoever. I had no stretch marks. I felt great the entire time. Had this really beautiful, easy breezy 6-hour labor. It was just fabulous. So it really is just a testament. Like I say, when you are able to get your body back into balance, it just spills over into every other area of your life. So that said, I want you to start taking notes because we're really going to be delving into what's at the root of your sugar cravings here, and then I'm going to teach you what it is that you need to do to start to overcome these yourself. Okay, that said, too, I just want to share this with you because it's not just me. Don't just take my word for it. This is one of my clients. She actually wrote in to say, I have to confess that as a lifelong chocoholic, when Eve told me that I would no longer crave chocolates and sweets, I had my doubts. But fast forward 6 weeks, I'm a changed woman. The cravings for chocolate and sweets have completely gone, and you just have to trust this process. It really, really works. So, that said, we're going to go through 8 different underlying reasons why your body could be craving sugar now. Now, initially, this first couple ones on the list here, I all the time I hear people like, or I see people kind of rolling their eyes going, oh yeah, well, we all know that. But I really want you to check in with this because there may be some things here that you haven't heard before, or you've heard it, but you're not actively paying attention to whether or not you're doing it in your own personal life. So you can know everything. You can have intellectually, you can have all this information, but if you're not actually applying it, you can have all the information in the world and it won't do you a bit of good. So, that said, root cause number 1, dehydration. Now, interestingly enough, we all know that we need to be drinking water. That's no secret. It's like we're like every other biological creature on the planet. If you have a garden and you don't water it, it's going to die. Same thing. If you have a dog, a pet, and you forget to give him water, he's not going to last that long. It's the same thing with us. We need to be hydrated. But so many of us are waking up in a state of chronic dehydration. We reach for a cup of coffee, which actually is a diuretic, which takes even more water out of our system. We drink things like diet soda thinking, oh, well, there's no calories in this. Well, yeah, but guess what? There's caffeine, which is dehydrating you even more so. Now, interestingly enough, we've recently learned too that you don't even have to be in a state of severe dehydration, but if your body is missing even just 1% of the hydration that it needs, it can lead to headaches, it can lead to fatigue, it can lead to lack of focus, and guess what else it can lead to? Sugar cravings. Like, who knew, right? Who knew? So yeah, like when you start to experience sugar cravings, you really need to check in with your body and ask and say, whoa, what's up here? When was the last time I had some water? Now, let me tell you how this is going to work. I'm actually going to go through these root causes, and then we'll go back at the end, and I'm going to give you the solutions that you need or some advice and some tips on what you can do to switch these around. So for right now, just know that dehydration is one tip that we need, or one thing that we need to be looking into. Okay, root cause number 2, malnourishment. Now, for me, when I first heard about the concept of malnourishment, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I live in the United States. I don't live in a third world country that's having, poverty issues and there's, not enough food. How could I possibly be malnourished? Well, the truth of the matter is the majority of us that are living in the States now that are eating processed foods, meaning foods that come in boxes and cans and jars, frozen TV dinners and, just anything that wasn't made from scratch by yourself, like whole foods, you're basically eating a bunch of foods that have been so fragmented and denatured that your body is no longer getting the basic nutrition that it needs to fire up your metabolism and to just give you the get up and go that you need to get through your day. So, I mean, it really is like this huge, sweeping, broad topic, but so many of us are consuming massive amounts of calories on a daily basis, but we're not getting the basic nutrients that we actually need. We're actually overeating and malnourished at the same time. So again, if the body is missing the very basic nutrients that it needs to function and think and move and breathe, it's going to look for a quick energy source just to kind of make up for that loss. And the body's not stupid. It knows that sugar will give us that quick boost of energy. Now, ultimately, it's not a good sustainable solution because sugar doesn't actually have any nutrients in it, as we discussed before when I talked about the refining process. So that said, we really, really need to just check in with the foods that we're eating and ask ourselves, are we really eating? Are we getting nourishment at this point? Okay, we'll talk more about what to do with this later. Okay, now, number 3, cause 3, inappropriate amounts of protein in our diet. Now, interestingly enough, when you look at, much of the world, you see that there are, you know, plenty of people that are eating really, really low protein diets. And then you'll also see, Americans that generally tend to have too much protein in our diets. I have a lot of girls that will come into my practice and, for spiritual reasons, they'll switch over to like a vegan diet and they don't quite know how to do it right. So they're not really getting the nourishment that they need. And like I said, if the body is missing protein, again, you'll start to like experience sugar cravings. And conversely, if you have too much protein in your diet, the body can start to send out signals for sugar. So again, there's good solutions to this too, but just know that protein can be one of these issues. Now next, cause number 4, de-evolution. This is probably more up Harlan's alley. I don't know if you've ever been experiencing like really good stuff going on in your life. Like, you just got a promotion at your job, maybe you started going back to the gym and like you've been following a healthier eating plan, like things are going great, just got a raise. It's like we reach this point where subconsciously we don't even recognize that we're stepping into this new area of life that's, like we're not used to like things being so good for us. And on an unconscious level, we'll start to do things to sabotage ourselves. And again, it's not because we don't want good things in life. It's almost like we just don't know how to like be in that space. So, diet's going really well. So what do? We throw a monkey wrench into it unconsciously because again, like I said, subconscious mind is not used to like going to these new places. So again, just be aware of that. And I'm sure we've all experienced that to some point, to some extent or another. Like, I don't know why I just did that. Like, things have been going so well. Why did I have to go and like mess that up for myself? So again, just keep that one in mind. Next, this is a topic that I absolutely love to talk about. I'm actually a graduate from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York, and one of the big dietary theories that my school is known for developing is the theory of primary foods versus secondary foods. Now again, I remember when I first heard primary foods and secondary foods, my mind thought, well, yeah, primary foods, that's like, what we're eating, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Well,
I
not
thought
the
you were going to
case.
say, I thought you were going to say Ben and Jerry.
No, 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 no. But I will tell you how Ben and Jerry's ties into this. Anyhow, primary foods are not the foods that come on our breakfast, lunch, and dinner plates. Our secondary foods are the foods that come on our breakfast, lunch, and dinner plates. Our primary foods are the things that nourish us on a much deeper level. So for example, when you get up in the morning and you turn and you look at your sweetie, what type of a relationship are you in? Are you in a loving, supportive, caring relationship? When you get up and you go to work, like, are you really invested in something that just makes your soul sing? You just love the work that you're doing and you feel so inspired and engaged in the work that you're doing. Or conversely, are you in a job that's like absolutely just like bleeding your soul where you can't stand even going in there, you're not aligned with the work that you're doing? How are you treating your body? Like, when you get off work, do you have enough movement in your life? Are you, basically engaging in enough self-care? And then even larger picture, like, where do you connect in life with, some type of like spiritual connection? And for everybody, this is very different. It may mean, connecting with the religion that you were brought up with, or it may mean, exploring new things outside of what you were, raised with. Or, for some people, it means just, getting out into nature and connecting with something that's bigger than ourselves. But again, these are all things that nourish us on a much deeper level. And oftentimes, when one of these things is out of balance, it can cause us to reach for sugar. So here's a quick example of this. If you're at your job and you're like totally stressed out and your boss is like yelling at you and like every day, like just to like make it through the end of the day, you find yourself like milling around near the vending machine like, oh great, let me just grab another candy bar here, because you're dealing with stress by reaching for chocolate, right? Or how many of us get home from work, husband's ignoring us, he's in there watching, football every night, we're kind of mindlessly surfing the internet and like, popping cookies in our mouth while we're doing it. Or we wind up like wandering into the kitchen and feeling like, oh, I'm bored, and like we wind up eating out of boredom. And, it's like there's something bigger that's missing in our life that's satisfying us on such a deep level that we're using the food to compensate for it. So again, we'll talk about what we need to do to overcome this too. Okay, next, this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated. And I just want to let you know, like, if some of these things start to feel like, whoa, this is kind of a big deal, please don't worry. I'm not going to like leave you high and dry with this information where it's like, okay, great, here it is. Go figure it out on yourself now. So please don't worry. Okay, cause number 6, dysregulated biochemistry. This is a huge, huge topic, and again, something that I feel so deeply inspired to share with others, because as I mentioned, we have so many people that are taking antidepressant drugs, and there's just nobody talks about a root cause. They just say, oh, you've got this biochemical imbalance and you need to be on Prozac for the rest of your life. And we realize that these SSRI drugs really have some serious, serious consequences. Now, that said, here's how this works. Your body produces all sorts of different hormones, right? And we're familiar with a lot of them. Like, we know like our sex hormones, like testosterone and estrogen. And we also know like our severe stress hormones, like adrenaline and cortisol. So, like if we suddenly are getting attacked, we will produce a lot of adrenaline so that we can either fight off our attacker or we'll run away. Now, additionally, our body produces other specialized stress hormones known as neurotransmitters. Okay, neuro is the Latin word for nerve, and transmitter is something that sends out a signal. But basically, we can just think of these as our brain chemicals, although they really kind of interact all over our body. But again, we can sort of think of them as brain chemicals. Basically, what these brain chemicals do is they allow us to experience joy and pleasure and happiness. And if for some reason they're out of alignment, we can start to experience depression and anxiety and insomnia and ADD symptoms. It's a huge, huge topic. So for many people, if we do have some type of dysregulation in these brain chemicals, it can cause us to crave sugar, okay? Now, in the past, we didn't have many solutions for this. You either suffered through your depression and your anxiety and your sugar cravings, or you went to the doctor and they said, yes, you have this chemical imbalance, and we're just going to have to like give you this drug, and you're going to have to take this drug for the rest of your life. We now know that this is not true, that it absolutely is possible for you to bring your body back into balance, and when that happens, the sugar cravings will disappear too. So root cause number 6 can be dysregulated brain chemistry. Okay, root cause number 7, Candida albicans overgrowth. Whoa, that's a big word. Most people actually know about Candida, except they call it yeast, and that's basically what it is a yeast overgrowth. And this is a really fascinating topic. If you have ever felt like you're just totally obsessed by sugar, like the second you like have a little bit, like your whole body's just screaming for more of it, there's a really good chance that you actually have a Candida overgrowth. And it's not you that's craving the sugar, it's this yeast in our body. So how does this work? Basically, we have this amazing internal ecosystem going on inside our own body. I'll tell you, I remember when I was like 7 years old and second grade, the little boy that sat next to me, his name was Robbie Muller. And I remember he looked at me and he said, do you know that we have like microscopic bugs like living on our skin? And I like freaked out. It was like more than like my little 7-year-old brain could like take in at that time. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to hear that. Well, now of course, as a researcher of this topic, I know that not only do we have, microscopic bugs living on the surface of our skin, but we actually have trillions upon trillions of these little microscopic organisms living in and on our body. In fact, just to give you a representation of what this picture truly is, they say that we have about 1 trillion cells in our own body. They say that for every cell that we have about 9 to 10 of these bacteria. So basically, 1 trillion of us versus 9 to 10 trillion of these microscopic bacteria and organisms. It's really wild. It's almost like we're this like walking, talking, marionette that's really, comprised of so much of this bacteria that's not really us. Now, on a regular basis, this, bacteria that lives in and on us, it's a really good thing. We've got this amazing symbiotic relationship with them. They take care of us. They protect us from any of the bad, yeasts and molds and funguses and parasites that are, in the world, and they basically keep us healthy. Now, in the event that this good bacteria has been disrupted and bad bacteria or bad yeasts and molds and funguses have been able to move in and take over, then we're going to wind up in a situation where we crave sugar because that is their number one preferred food source. So they will actually send chemical messages out into our body saying, feed me sugar. So like I said, we can fight all day long, but if we have some sort of chemical message going off in our system telling us to eat sugar, we can fight all day long, but I'll tell you what, our biochemistry tends to win out so much more so than our own willpower in this case. So let me give you another example of this. Biochemically, our body needs oxygen, right? We can all agree on that. We need oxygen. If we don't get any oxygen in, we're going to die. Our body's not going to allow that. So, go ahead and hold your breath for a minute and then try to use your willpower to tell your biochemistry that you don't need oxygen. It's not going to happen. Your biochemistry will win out. It will make your body take a breath. So the same thing, when these chemical messages are being sent through your system saying sugar, now, we can use our willpower all we want, and perhaps we can hold in there for a good while. But ultimately, the body will get shaky, we'll start to feel anxious, like the craving, the desire will be so intense that it's like we almost, just can't resist it. So again, this is what I'm talking about, and we really, really do have the opportunity to shift this. But just be aware, if you've been beating yourself up, it's likely not been you. It's likely been something else in your body that could have been calling for this sugar. Okay, last, root cause number 8, adrenal fatigue. Okay, so we have these amazing little glands that sit on top of our kidneys, sort of like these triangular shaped glands, and they're sort of like, our lower back, where your kidneys are, right? So these adrenal glands sit right on top of our kidneys. And basically, they're responsible for a lot of different things. I mean, we're familiar with, of course, like I gave the example previously, like if we're being attacked, the body will send out a massive rush of adrenaline so that we can either fight off our attacker or we can run away. But what we don't realize is that adrenaline also basically gives us our get up and go so that we, can, jump out of bed in the morning feeling bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and get our day going. Now, so many of us, of course, have been living these really, really stressful lives, and we don't even recognize like where the stress is coming in. So let me just give you an example. If you're sitting at a traffic light and you've got a red light and somebody's like blaring their horn at you and you're like, what do you want me to do? I got a red light. I can't go here. That is actually, the body views that as a stressful situation. The body will start to send out small amounts of adrenaline. Now, again, when this happens over time, it's like the body was not really designed to be, constantly releasing these stress hormones. Our adrenal glands can absolutely become burnt out. And when that happens, it's like we just don't have enough energy to even like wind up getting up to go to work. We feel like we're completely dragging all day long. You start to experience like brain fog, like you just can't think straight. And again, the adrenals, like any other part of the body, are like, oh God, please just give me some like quick source of energy here. We can start to crave coffee and sugar. And sadly, both of those are even more damaging to the adrenals. So it's like this huge, vicious cycle. So again, just know, like if you've been experiencing some of those symptoms, your sugar cravings likely could have been caused by this adrenal fatigue. All right, so that said, what are we going to do now to start working on all of this? Well, it's time for your solutions. So please pull out a pen and we can get ready to start discussing this. So again, remember what I talked about before, root cause number 1, dehydration. really important topic because, as I said before, even 1%, if we're missing 1% of our normal hydration levels, we can start to experience not only sugar cravings, but headaches, fatigue, lack of focus. And again, we're not even talking about severe dehydration here. So, as I mentioned before, most of us are waking up early in the day. Our body has been using our hydration all night long while we've been sleeping to like repair and restore our body and to help us actually move any type of toxic debris out of our system. So we wake up in a state where we're already missing some water. And then what do most of us do? We head right in and we pour ourselves a cup of coffee, which actually just adds more to dehydration issues in our body. The caffeine is basically a diuretic. Either that, or even if we're skipping the coffee, most of us head right in and we start eating food without bringing any water in. So here's what I want you guys to start doing. This is a really, really interesting tip, and I actually start every single one of my clients that are either in my private programs with me or my group coaching programs. This is the very first recommendation that I give every single client. What I'll tell you to do is start off with a really big glass of water, at least 16 ounces, and if not 32. I mean, start off with a nice big glass. You leave this on your bedside table. Now, trust me, if you say, oh, well, I'll just get it when I get up. You get up, you wander into the bathroom, the next thing you know, you've completely forgotten. Like when you wake up and you go to turn your alarm clock off and you see it right then and there, you're going to go, okay, there it is. I gotta drink this. Now, a lot of us, because we're used to waking up in a state of dehydration, the body just doesn't even know what to do with the water at first. You go, oh, I'm kind of drinking this. I don't know how I'm feeling about this. Like, yeah, it's all right. All right, I guess I can kind of, make this happen. I want you to believe me with this, and you don't even have to believe me. You can try this yourself. If you stick with this habit for a month, it's usually around like the 3-week point, you'll start to wake up, and not only will it not be a chore anymore, but your body, you'll wake up and you'll go, oh my God, I can't wait to get some water. I'm so thirsty. It feels so refreshing, and it's just so thirst quenching. Your energy levels will shift. Oftentimes my clients will tell me, oh my God, I don't even have to drink coffee anymore. Like I just feel so good. I don't even want the coffee anymore. It's just amazing. Like I said, it's amazing. And if you're drinking that amount of water first thing in the morning, you've already, let's just say theoretically, if you're one of these people that needs 8-ounce glasses of water a day, which is kind of like the standard norm, you've already gotten, if you drink 16 to 32 ounces, you've already gotten either 25 to 50% of your daily water needs out of the way before you've even done anything else. It's pretty cool. So again, there's lots of other techniques that I have for getting more hydration into the body, but I just wanted to start you off with one that really, really works. So I want to give you one more tip here. You might start to do this, and around day 7, you go, oh my God, I don't want to do this anymore. That's your subconscious mind jumping in going, uh-oh, something's shifting. Like something's changing, like we're changing on a molecular level here. I don't know if I'm ready for this. And so you'll come up with reasons like, oh, I don't want to drink it, I don't like it, or like whatever it is. Just push through it, push through it. If you can get to that 3-week to 4-week period, you'll realize what I'm talking about. You'll go, oh my God, this is so cool. I am actually craving water. And then guess what? When we get to like satisfy our cravings and our body's actually craving something that's good for it, that's when you start to experience this new way of living that I'm talking about, where you get to satisfy your cravings all day long, but your body's actually asking you for really good stuff that does really good things for you and changes your life. So it's an amazing process. Okay, next. Actually, I just wanted to share this too. This was one of my other clients, Pamela, that wrote in to say, was there a sane way for somebody like me to be healthy, lose weight, kick my sugar habit? Eve came along with one suggestion to try at the beginning of my day. Just one change, and that was it. She dropped 16 pounds. She said the miracle was that she really, really enjoyed doing it. It fit into her life, and again, just really helped to change things. So even if you're looking at this going, it's one little change, those one little changes can really add up to something big. Okay, now root cause number 2 we discussed was malnourishment. And I mentioned, We have actually changed our food more in the last 50,000, I'm sorry, we've changed our food more in the last 50 years than we have in the last, 100,000 years prior. It's really unbelievable how much we've actually changed our food supply. When you walk into a grocery store these days, 95% of the foods that are in there are no longer really food. But again, because this is what we see and this is what we know, this is what we think is like, real. This is what we think that we're supposed to be eating. But as I mentioned, all of this really transpired in the last 50 years. Like our great grandparents didn't have like, macaroni and cheese in the shape of, fish or, fruit by the foot or Go-Gurt or whatever these, crazy processed foods are that we're, feeding ourselves and our kids. So we've really got to start to recognize that all these things that we're eating are no longer providing us nourishment, and conversely, they're actually depositing toxins in our body. Anytime you eat artificial colors and flavors and additives and preservatives, even though like they have a government rating called, generally regarded as safe, GRAS. And individually, one of those additives or preservatives or artificial colors or flavors might in fact be generally safe. But the problem is we are dealing with dozens and dozens upon dozens of these chemicals in all of our processed foods. I mean, one ingredient on a label could actually have 50 different chemicals in it. And I want you to think about this. When you go to the pharmacy to pick up a medication, the pharmacist will run that medication through a database to make sure that there's no other like drug interactions, okay? Because they know that the chemicals in that drug could interact with something else that you're taking and can cause really bad problems. Well, with all of our processed foods, I mean, there's no way, like you could not take a processed food and do like a double blind test with another food because there's just like this infinite amount of chemicals that we've dumped into our food over the last 50 years. And again, we are now building up these levels of toxins in our body, and simultaneously all the nutrition has been removed. This is absolutely throwing us out of balance, where the body is like, oh my God, I've got this major toxic waste dump going on in my system, and simultaneously I don't have any of the good nutrition that I need to like power up my body and even detoxify all this junk that's in my system here. So again, because it's so taxed out, it's going to crave sugar just to give it this, instant boost of energy. So we've got to, again, stop the source of this pollution, from where it's coming in. We've got to stop bringing in all these, denatured foods that really are toxic and don't give us any nutrition. And I know for a lot of us, I mean, I get it. Like for me personally, I was like, I don't know what to do with like, an eggplant or a butternut squash. There's no like food label on the side. There's no instructions. Like, like it's not like a TV dinner that you put in the microwave. And it requires an investment in us learning how to live differently. But I can tell you, when you move into this new place and you realize how easy it is to actually prepare simple, nourishing meals that taste really good, it is absolutely the single best investment that you can ever make into your life. Mark my words on that. Okay, so moving on. Root cause number 3, or rather solution number 3. Or actually, let me just share this with you quickly. Lori I love this lady, just love her. She's got 3 little girls, and when she came in and she said, I need to get off of processed foods and I need to get off of sugar, what are we going to do here? She actually wrote in later to say, the great news for me is that I'm actually eating more food than I've ever eaten before. But because it's, so much healthier, she's able to eat more food, and she kicked her sugar habits and lost weight in the process. Again, like this is what happens when you get back to eating the foods that are growing out of the ground that we've eaten for hundreds of thousands of years as a species and been able to survive on this planet without all these crazy cravings. So again, that's really the beauty of this. Okay, so root cause number 3 was inappropriate amounts of protein. Inappropriate amounts of protein. So now, if you're one of those little like string bean yoga girls that I was talking about, because not everybody that craves sugar is actually overweight. In fact, your body could be just burning sugar, but you're actually malnourished and you're just like I said, one of these little skinny string bean girls. Take a look and see if you, in fact, are missing protein in your diet. Like I said, a lot of girls will switch over, and again, I'm not just picking on the girls, it's the guys too, but a lot of people will switch over to vegetarian or vegan diets, and again, not really understand how to do it properly. And trust me, you can be a vegetarian by eating bags of Doritos and pounds of Pop-Tarts and, Oreos and drinking Diet Coke all day long. And while that is a vegetarian diet, it's basically a horrendous way to like poison yourself and cause your body to be really out of balance. So again, look and make sure that you're not missing protein in your diet. Now, conversely too, this is super important. I actually had a young lady that came into my class who had been eating a Weston Price type diet. Now again, this is a really cool, like back to the farm type of diet, but there's a lot of animal protein involved with it normally too. And she listened to this class that I'm doing right now, as a matter of fact, and she said, I betcha I'm one of those people that's eating too much protein. Well, lo and behold, she actually wound up signing up for like one of my group coaching programs, and a week passed, and before the class she'd even started any of the modules, she said, I'm just going to try that one tip. Well, she got onto my very first group coaching call and said, hey, you know what? I heard you give that tip about the sugar cravings and the too much protein thing a week ago, so I started cutting back on the amount of protein that I was eating at each meal. And she said, I can't believe it. She's like, my sugar cravings have gone. I've been like battling this for years now, and this is it. Like who knew? So it really can be something, that simple for you. So in addition to experimenting with how much protein you're eating, I definitely encourage you to experiment with different sources of organic proteins. Now again, this especially becomes important if you're eating animal protein. One of the single biggest sources of toxins and poisons that you can be getting into your body is from factory farm animals. So again, I'm actually a big advocate of animal protein for my own body. Like I need to eat animal protein. I feel very out of balance if I don't. But being that I know what really goes into factory farm foods, I absolutely go out of my way to get organic animal proteins. Even more so, like if I had to make a choice and said, well, I can either buy all organic vegetables this week, or I can buy all organic meats, hands down, I would go with the meats and take conventional vegetables. That's how important it is. Now, additionally, too, if you're eating vegetarian sources of proteins, don't get dragged into this whole myth about soy being a good source of protein. One of the biggest problems that we have these days is genetically modified soybeans. It's a huge topic, and like I said, I can't even get into it right now, but it's something that I take very seriously and spend a lot of time talking to my clients about good sources of protein and getting out the ones that are really, really toxic. Okay, so moving on. Number 4 was de-evolution. De-evolution. This is where you're, again, embracing these new changes in your life, and you subconsciously wind up like sabotaging yourself. The only thing I can tell you, or the biggest thing, actually there's a lot of things I can tell you about this, but the biggest thing, it really comes down to conscious awareness. Like when you find yourself where you're like, man, what did I just do that for? Don't beat yourself up. Just have some awareness around it. And again, the more natural foods that you eat. I know this might sound a little bit crazy, but the more natural foods you eat, the more of these chemicals that you get out of your system, the more your brain starts to like come back online, where you are thinking at a different level. You have this different level of clarity. And it's amazing because previously when you're like, oh my God, I never even realized I was doing that before, you suddenly have this heightened sense of awareness around not only what you're doing, but other aspects of your life. It really is a beautiful thing. So just know that as you eat more natural foods, this will become something that you start to do automatically. But in the meantime, you just have to bring your awareness to it, make an effort to bring your awareness to it. Okay, next, we talked about root cause number 5 being lack of primary foods. And as I mentioned before, primary foods are what nourish us on a deeper level. It has nothing to do with food. It has everything to do with where are we really deriving happiness and satisfaction in our life. And as I mentioned before, it's like, I'll give the Ben and Jerry's example, Harlan. How many of us have been through a really difficult breakup where we're absolutely heartbroken? And the very first thing that we did was we went to the refrigerator and reached for a pint of Ben and Jerry's, you know? It's like there is no amount of Ben and Jerry's that is ever going to fill that hole in our heart. But because we're under stress at that point, we just reach for the one thing that's going to actually, like, bring us some temporary satisfaction, which ultimately doesn't make us happy. Um, so when you're in that place, just look and say, what kind of happiness can I bring into my life right now that will come from a non-food item? And maybe that means picking up the phone and calling a friend. Maybe that means like getting a hug, you know? Maybe that means treating yourself to some self-care. Like I know for me, anytime I go through a bad breakup, I always go and get a massage. Like I just need to like totally chill out and like really be, feeling like I'm taken care of. Let me give you another example too. When we're kids and we're outside and we were running around and playing and having a blast, and like your mother would like open up the back door and go, "Honey, dinner." And like, "No, Mom, I don't want to come in for dinner. I'm having too much fun." And she'd say, "No, sweetie, come on in. You got to come in and eat dinner." And so you'd come in and like she'd bargain with you, going, "All right, come on, just eat a little bit more. If you have 3 more bites, you can go outside." And you go, "Oh, okay." And she'd say, "No, come on, one last bite." And again, the whole idea was we were not focused on food. We didn't even care about the food. We were having so much fun and pleasure and enjoyment in our own lives that like food wasn't even a thought. How can we get back to that place where again we're deriving so much pleasure in our lives that food is not the first thing on our minds? Have you ever been at work where you've been like just working away and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm totally engaged in this," and then you look up and you go, "Oh my God, I totally forgot to eat lunch today. Like I've just been so engaged and whatever I was doing here." This is the place that we want to be. And again, if we are not in this place, if we're at a job that like is totally stressing us out and like I said, bleeding our soul and creating so much stress that we find ourselves like reaching, for something to sublimate our desires for getting the heck out of there, by stuffing cookies in our face or reaching for donuts, it's like we got to look at the bigger picture and realize, wow, the sugar is really cluing me into the fact that how I live my hours is how I live my days, and how I live my days becomes how I live my years. And am I really living a life that's truly satisfying me at this point? I cannot tell you how many people come in to see me, for losing weight or, dealing with something in their diet, and they wind up leaving, like I said, a completely different person. Like changed jobs, got rid of that toxic relationship, like, had this total reinvention. Because like I said, this really spills over into every area of your life, and it's just amazing what will happen when you really truly bring yourself back into balance. And that means not just through the food, but through all other areas of your life. It really is this holistic approach. So again, find nourishment from items that are not food. Okay, so moving on, I'll just tell you this briefly. Teresa was one of my clients who said, for one of the first times in her life, she was able to just vacation and relax and not focus on stress and sugar cravings. And it was because I had given her some tools to really live life, not just endure it. So these are some of the same tools that I'm giving you here today. Just really know that when you apply these will work. Okay, next. If you are suffering from dysregulated brain chemistry, which was root cause number 6, I want to let you know that there are a lot of good self-help programs out there. There are some books that you can read, but one of the best ways to really help yourself with dysregulated brain chemistry is finding a practitioner who can work with you to help get your body back into balance. I wish I could make it easy, and it would be a whole nother class. In fact, when I actually teach my group coaching program, I designate an entire module just to this topic because it is such a big deal. Especially if you have been on antidepressants, I don't recommend trying to take yourself off of them. I took myself off of antidepressants myself years ago when I went through my transformation. But again, I was in an environment where I was supported by a community of other nutrition professionals. So don't feel like you need to go this alone. It's like I always say, like if you got served a lawsuit today, you're like, "Oh my God, I'm getting sued." Like you would call an attorney. You wouldn't like try and figure out how to like represent yourself in a court of law. Or if like the engine suddenly falls out of your car, you're not going to like become super mechanic and be like, "Oh, I can fix that." Most likely you're going to call a tow truck and get it to a mechanic. But somehow when it comes to our own body, It's like we feel like we have to figure it all out on our own. And just know, like, you don't have to go this alone. And there are real viable solutions. Even if you've been told in the past, oh, there's no, way to correct a biochemical imbalance, and you can only just like either suffer or you can take Prozac. Like that's not true any longer. We do understand that the body makes its own natural hormones, and rather than taking the synthetic, SSRI drugs that come with all of their, side effects, and oftentimes still are not helping the sugar cravings, there are ways that you can get your body to start making its own natural feel-good chemicals, and not only do your sugar cravings disappear, but you move into this place of experiencing life from this place of joy and happiness, and you start to sleep better because it's all connected. So it really is an amazing thing to explore, and I definitely, definitely encourage you to do that if you feel like you may be suffering from a biochemical imbalance. Okay, that said, Lori, too, was one of my clients who basically had one of those same issues. She had a chemical imbalance, and she would lose weight and get her sugar cravings under control. And then the second she had a little bit more, that was it. She'd spiral out of control. She'd regain all the weight, and she was miserable. She had been doing this for like 20 years. So when we started working together and I was able to, again, get her brain chemistry rebalanced, she dropped the weight, and that was it. She's like, I'm still losing weight. I don't have these crazy cravings anymore. And she was one of these like super skeptical, like, I don't know if I believe in all this natural stuff. Funny enough, after she went through this, she actually enrolled in the same school that I graduated from, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and now she's actually working as a health coach herself, because she said, I suffered for so many years not knowing that there was a different way. And she said, I really feel like I have to spread this message. Like, how could I keep something this good to myself? And that's exactly why I do this work too. So moving on to root cause number 7, which was rebalancing our gut or overcoming a yeast infection. Okay, if you have been somebody who's been on antibiotics at any point in your life, and I know like that's almost a silly question, like who hasn't been on antibiotics at some point in our life, but if you've been on antibiotics, there's a very good opportunity that you have, not only killed off whatever you were fighting, like a, strep throat or, some type of infection, but there's a really good chance that you've upset this good friendly flora in your gut. And you'll know this because you'll start to experience like gas and bloating, you can have some constipation and, craving sugar like nobody's business. If you look at your tongue in the mirror, there's a really good chance that you're going to see a white coating on your tongue, okay? This is all indicative of the fact that you have a yeast overgrowth issue. And I'll tell you, it's heartbreaking almost, because when you go online and you start to like Google like yeast infection diet, there is so much misinformation out there about what you really need to do to get your body back into balance, and even a lot of practitioners don't quite have it right. If you do feel like those symptoms are things that you've been dealing with, like I said, gas, the bloating, the constipation or diarrhea, the crazy sugar cravings where it's like, oh my God, if I have a little bit, I just want to go nuts with it. The coating on your tongue, brain fog, inability to focus, fatigue, insomnia, low blood sugar, where your blood sugar starts to dip and you start to get shaky and all that. Those are all symptoms that you could be suffering from a yeast infection. Don't try and go this alone either. I mean, send me a message. This is a bigger topic than I can just give you solutions to right now, so it's really something that I would want to talk to you about and put you on the right path for it. But just know that like you don't need to beat yourself up about this. Like there is something biologically going on in your body that's making you crave the sugar. Okay, next. Gosh, again, one of my other clients that had a yeast issue. She, oh, bless her heart. When she came to me, she was just a mess. But no, bless her heart, she was just in pain all the time. Like was reactive to so many foods. Like she'd eat foods and have all these terrible like food allergy issues. So after working together and really working to rebuild her gut, it's like her sugar cravings disappeared, her joint pain, her acne, her depression, all of her digestive issues. And she said to me, hands down, after 15 years, this was really the best she had ever felt. So last issue that we talked about, healing your adrenals. Once again, this is a little bit more of a complicated process that can usually involve working with a practitioner, but there are a number of things that you can do on your own. First and foremost, you have to eliminate sugar and you have to eliminate caffeine. Like, your adrenals are really not going to heal. And I know that that's hard if that's like your crutch so far, like that's what you've been using to like get over your sugar cravings and your energy issues. But there are things that you can do that will heal the adrenals. First and foremost, getting all the processed foods out of your diet. Now, one of the reasons for this is sodium. Sodium, like all the salt that they put into our food, sodium is actually just a fragmentation of good whole sea salt. Good whole sea salt actually has all the minerals that our body needs to actually fire up and heal the adrenals again. Problem is, when we eat just that isolated nutrient, just the sodium that's been stripped away from, during the refining process with salt, the same way that we refine sugar, we refine salt. We strip away all the good stuff and leave a single nutrient there, sodium. It throws the body out of balance. So when you can actually bring back in all the good minerals from good Celtic sea salt or good Himalayan pink sea salt, that's one thing that will heal the adrenals. Bone stocks are another amazing thing to heal your adrenals. Good whole food diet, getting rid of the processed foods and bringing in mineral-rich vegetables, good sources of animal proteins. And again, there's a lot of supplements that will actually heal your adrenals too. But this is another case where I would say find a practitioner that really knows how to walk you down this path as well too. When you go through and again, discover what's at the root of these, there are definitely ways that you can shift these things. I want you to have hope that there are ways to actually heal in this process. That said, I want you to know too that if you've been listening here and you've been feeling like, wow, this was like just a lot of information here, I don't know if I can do this. I'll share with you just this one last story. Yvonne came to me. She had been riding on ambulances doing these crazy long 24-hour shifts. She would get off and she would literally sleep for 24 hours because her adrenals were so burnt out. Just in the course of working with me, I think it was like by week 8, she basically moved into this place where she had lost 50 pounds. Her adrenals were just up and pumping again. She was feeling great again. She was able to go back to work. And, she says time and time again that this class or working with me basically saved her life. So right now, I just want you to know, if you've been listening and you're like, this is all great stuff, and I've got some great tips here. I'm going to start with the water. I'm going to start switching my diet around. As I mentioned, you don't have to go this alone. I just want to let you know I'm opening up a couple of sessions here so that I can just sit down and chat with you and maybe look at your situation and figure out, what's going on so that I can really help to shift things in your life and move you back into a place where you can, start to get the results that you're actually looking for. Not everybody has the opportunity to sit down and talk with, an actual professional in this matter. So I want to let you know I'm going to deeply listen to your situation, and then we'll start to explore, what could be causing your problems and what solutions, I can give you to start moving in that direction too. We're all unique individuals. None of us have the same fingerprints. It's we're no two snowflakes are alike. So again, we need to figure out specifically what's going on with your body. And again, I'll be able to help you realize if it's something that you can either do on your own, or if it makes sense, for us to actually, start doing some work together, or if maybe, jumping into one of my programs can actually really help you. And I'll tell you, whether it's sugar cravings you're dealing with, or the need to lose 90 pounds, or even just 9 pounds that really could be bothering you, there's a way to do it better. There's a way to do it faster. There's a way to do it, more safely, and to actually get the long-lasting results that you're looking for. And again, if we sit down and talk, there's no pressure here. I mean, I'm not going to try and sell you on something that you don't need. If you decide that you want to work with me, that's awesome. That's great. I love supporting people in this process. But again, there's really no need to worry that you have to commit to something at all. It's just an opportunity to again have a really personal meeting, and I give you my word on that. This is what I live to do to help people who've been in the same situation that I've been in before. Because again, I know what can happen when you really truly get your body back into balance. So again, I thank you so much for being on here
Can you show
today. And
your
yes, oh,
can
sorry, I forgot to show you
yeah,
how to get in touch with me.
nobody's going to get in touch
Just
with you unless they get your email
I
address.
know. Oops. I guess my email address would help. So yeah, just like I said, shoot me off a message. We'll find a time to talk. It's really simple. It's just Eve at weightlossfortiredpeople.com. Eve at weightlossfortiredpeople.com. And like I said, this really truly is. I look now at all the things that I went through previously. And I used to say, like, why me? Like, why do I have to be the one that, sits out with the asthma inhaler? And, why do I have to be the one with the pizza face acne? And like, why do I have to be the chubby girl that's like shoving cake in her face all day long? And I know now that all of that like led to something so much bigger for me. It was like when I've really learned that there was just this miracle on the other side, and I was able to like step into this new way of living. It didn't feel like I went through all that in vain anymore, because everything that I've learned, I've now been able to help other people through the process. And there's just nothing more satisfying in my life than to be able to, like I said, like share what I've learned and help people to experience the same transformation. So again, honestly, it's my pleasure. It would be my absolute pleasure to sit down and just chat with you and see if I can, get another set of eyes in there that can take a look at what's going on in your situation and hopefully, get you the same type of results that, I've been getting with my clients over the
Oh,
last 7 years now.
all right, Eve, do you have time for a couple of questions? If you have
Yeah,
questions,
yeah,
type them in.
absolutely. It would be my pleasure. I have a 4 o'clock appointment, so we've got time to really jump in here.
Okay. Questions for Eve, guys. First of all, did you learn anything? Bill says, "Thank you for enlightening information. We'll be changing a couple of things in my life."
Aw,
Fantastic,
that's
Bill.
great. I'm so glad.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Amazing. Very good information.
Cool. I'm so glad. Yeah,
This
don't be
was
shy right
amazing.
now.
Thank you so much, Eve.
Oh, you're so welcome. Don't be shy right now. Like if you have a question that you want to ask, like I said, not everybody has the opportunity to connect, with a professional in this regard. And it really would be my pleasure to look at your case right now, and obviously as much as we can in the context of what we're doing right now to.
Learned a lot. Often a webinar promises info but does not deliver. You really did.
Yay!
What do
Thank
you
you. I'm so
suggest
glad.
for breakfast?
Yeah, yeah. So with breakfast, here is, I'll give you like one of my super, super secret like tips on this. Okay, so what happens normally with breakfast is this. We have like grown up in this society where, like, just think about common breakfast foods. When you go into a restaurant, you open up a menu. You see pancakes and waffles and French toast, and you'll see bagels and muffins and cereals. And so many of the breakfasts that we commonly are presented are all carbohydrate based. Now, carbohydrates are not necessarily a bad thing, but when we start to go through and refine them, that's when we wind up stripping away the fiber, and the fiber is where most of our nutrients are actually contained. And the fiber, of course, is what the body needs to basically go through and break down really, really slowly, so that we get access to the sugar that's in the carbohydrates very, very slowly. It's like this, sustained, slow process of releasing the sugar into our system. So we never experience that huge like spike. Sadly, if you're somebody that's been throwing your body out of balance for a long time, even eating good carbohydrates can still have the same effect. That's a different story. But for most of us, just switching over from eating refined versions of carbohydrates to whole grains. So, what does that look like? Some of my favorite whole grains include quinoa, millet, amaranth, and buckwheat. Now, again, I know for most people they hear that, and I know for me too. When I was like, "What? Like what?" Quinoa. Quinoa is this amazing, like ancient grain. It's rumored that in ancient times, like in the heights of the Andes Mountains, these ancient warriors used to eat quinoa, and it allowed them to like perform these like crazy athletic feats in this high altitude area where the body doesn't have a lot of oxygen. And one of the reasons is quinoa is actually a complete protein. It has tons of amino acids in it. Like it's a wonderful source of protein, for a grain. It has a lot of good nutrition in it. So when you eat this superfood, your body gets like supercharged. I had a friend actually who bless her heart, her mother had died when she was very young, and she just like grew up, with her father who was like, yeah, honey, eat whatever makes you happy. So from the time she was 4, she basically ate like Little Debbie snack cakes and like boxes of macaroni and cheese, and frozen pizza like every day. So her body, by the time I met her, like in her, mid 30s, she was so out of balance and she was suffering from so many problems. So I went over to her house one day and I made her a dinner of quinoa with like some sauteed vegetables, and she had we had dinner together and I had to leave. She called me later that night and she said, "What was in that stuff you fed me?" She's like, "I went out and like walked the dog around the block and I was like totally on fire. I was like, like practically like, skipping." I was like, "Yeah, no kidding, right? Like your body just got really, really good nutrition." So anyhow, like when you can like jump into a place where you start to include more nutrient dense foods, like I said, like instead of refined carbohydrates, look for the whole version, and you can make these really beautiful breakfast porridges, and it's so not hard to do. So yeah, that would be one thing that I would recommend doing for
Okay,
breakfast.
other questions. Um, Misty says spelling. I'm not sure what you mean. Excellent presentation. Great info. Eve offers truly actionable information. So glad I joined just 4 minutes. Excellent presentation. Okay, so, um, oh, spelling
Ooh,
of the
I see a
grains.
message.
Okay,
Oh, spelling.
okay.
Quinoa. Uh, it's actually spelled like quinoa, which is Quinoa. Quinoa. Millet is Millet. Amaranth. Gosh, let me see. I'll have to spell this out.
You know what? The best thing to do,
Amaranth.
guys, the best thing to do is to send Eve an email. Okay, send
Totally.
her an email and say, "Could you recommend some grains for me?" Okay, what do you
Yeah,
think of
totally.
old-fashioned Quaker oats, oatmeal for a breakfast carb?
Ooh, yeah, that's got some problems with it there. That's definitely not a good choice because it has actually been more processed than we care for. Oats can be a good choice, but it really makes a difference, like if you're getting good ones versus highly refined ones. So yeah, I would skip that one.
Okay. Other questions, guys. What about steel cut oats from Adam?
There you go. Steel cut are going to be a better choice. You do need to make sure that they're coming from an organic source, though, because nowadays too many GMOs have been slipping into our food supply. And a lot of these, common food manufacturers, like big agricultural food suppliers, like, I think Quaker Oat Company is one of them, but a lot of them basically have GMO foods that are present in their ingredients. And
Hey,
GMOs stand
I just thought of something and I'm going to ask. I haven't even asked Eve, all right? We're not even going to check with Eve. How many people would like to hear from Eve again? How
Oh,
many
you're so
people would
sweet,
like to
Harlan.
hear from Eve again? Yes, 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 I would. Yes, yes,
Oh,
absolutely. Please,
cool.
please, please. Sure thing. Yes, I would. Eve was great. Sure. Yes, yes, again. A replay of this one. Yes, yes, definitely. Okay. Um, Tell me the let me ask you a couple of questions so we can determine what you guys need. Okay. How many people on the call have a weight issue? How many people on the call? I'm not going to call out your names. How many people on the call have a weight issue? Yes, me, yes, 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 me, wait, me, yes, weight issue. One no, I do. Uh, can't wait to eat. Yes, yeah. Okay. So it seems to me that, the majority of the people here have a weight issue. Okay, so if I can persuade Eve to do it, we might do another webinar that's strictly about weight. It would be great to get some recipes or ideas of what to eat for each meal, what's healthy. Well, that would
Mm-hmm.
be fantastic. I think um, we can do that. Well, so let's go. There's one more question here that I saw as an interesting question, and not going to say anything, but I'm just going to pour it up to you, put it out to you, and that is, what about granola? Good or bad? Has the
Right. Well,
reputation of being super healthy. You go in like a
mm-hmm.
Starbucks and you see that they have yogurt with, granola up on the top and fruit. Okay, is
Mm-hmm.
all right. What is it? What do you
Right. So here's, like you just said, it has the reputation of being super healthy. So many of the granolas that are out there today have been laden with such garbagey ingredients that they're actually not only not a health food, but you might as well, like, just go have a donut. I mean, it really can be that bad. Now, that said, that doesn't have to be the case, but it really does involve you knowing the difference and knowing which ones are going to be the viable ones to eat and which ones are not. I just had granola yesterday actually for breakfast. So there's definitely some really really good ones out there that can totally like rock your body instead of hurting your body. Does
think? Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah. Um. Okay. So, Um, folks, first, I want to thank all of you for coming and spending on a call that went a little bit over time. We apologize. We will get a replay out to you if that if that works. And if the good Lord of you want to make that big again, show that slide so people can
Oops.
get it.
I
And
just oops.
okay, you can tell Eve doesn't do a lot of
Here we
these.
go.
Um,
Sorry.
It's frozen there. All right. There we go. Guys, you want to, there were only 10 available because I can tell you that it's really hard to get time with Eve on the phone. So if you get one of those 10, go ahead and grab it. Okay. And we will talk. I'm seeing so many questions now coming in. We don't have time. Take the email address now and schedule time to talk to her and ask her your questions. I'm seeing just questions all of a sudden come in. Someone's said, "Hey, just get on the phone with me or get a consult with me." Go ahead and do that. That's Eve at weightlossfortiredpeople.com. She really knows her stuff. What she was doing today is just the tip of the iceberg. If she mumbled about nutrition in her sleep, um, you would probably learn a tremendous amount without any of the nonsense that the big companies are talking about. So everybody, thanks for being here. Thanks, Eve. Thanks, Glenna, for being in the back and recording. Everybody, just have a terrific, terrific day. Bye.
Yes. Thanks so much. Bye bye now.